Welcome to Highly Wholistic, the podcast where we talk about the 8 dimensions of wellness. Today, we have a great guest for you, Shane Sales. He's a teacher, a massage therapist, a medical intuitive, and I'm excited to present everybody with what you have and all the interesting things that I've learned from you.
Well, thank you so much for allowing me to be here today and helping out and communicating what we're all communicating.
Mm-hmm. So to get started, how did you get into wellness? What brought you here?
Yeah, that's a great question. And in my line of work, when I was going through school, et cetera, people would say, oh, I could, I always had this ability, et cetera. That wasn't my case. I grew up in Casper, Wyoming, which is the next state up north, and a very small town. I grew up, I had no exposure whatsoever to anything that would be considered alternative care at all. And it wasn't until I moved around quite a bit as a kid. And in 1990, I graduated from high school and went into the Navy. That's a whole story in itself, but went into the Navy. And that was a lot of fun. So my path was always about what I wanted to do. Like my own mind was like, I want to better myself. I want to do what I think is right. And so the military, I got out of the service, served 4 years in the Navy, got out of the service, went to work for corporate America. So all of that said, that was my, that's what I wanted to do. That's what I thought I wanted to do, right? So wellness never really was on my mind. In fact, when I heard massage in the Navy, you could imagine I'd laugh. I'm like, well, there's no way I'm going to be doing that. I just had such a different perspective of what it was from my experience. So wellness was not anywhere at all in my DNA or code. However, this is where I really learned to appreciate how our experiences, no matter how distant or how weird they may seem, are all part of our path to our own power. And this was the case with me. So wellness really came about, I got out of the service and I was wobbling whether I should get in or should I stay or should I get out, But I ended up getting out. And then I went to work for corporate America. And about 2 years into my job, and I was very good at what I did and made good money. Things were wonderful. All the things I thought I wanted materialistically wise were there, but I was very unhappy. And one day, I'm sitting at my desk, and I can't explain it. I'm 26 years old, a grown man. I'm crying in my desk, and I cannot figure out what's wrong. So, as I shared with you earlier, this is where if I had seen a traditional doctor or had gone that route, I am 100% sure they would diagnose me with anxiety or depression or both, right? That's all you get, depression. Well, come to find out, that's not it at all. Carolyn Mace, who is someone who her information, her words, and her stories were very powerful to me. And she talks about this state of your soul, if you will, not aligned with what you're doing in life. And that's why I was feeling the way I was feeling. I didn't know at the time, but that was my first inclination into this idea of wellness. So now, mind you, I'm in the military, wobbling what I should do. So I started thinking about what I wanted to do, and I made a list on one hand of things I was doing, and all the things I was doing were working for one man and making him lots of money. And I was doing well. I liked it, but I really wasn't happy with it. So at the other hand, what I always wanted to do, there was a theme, and that theme was being of service. Now, It sounds kind of crazy now, but that was my deeper calling. That was my deeper meaning for life, and I wasn't aligned with that. So that's when you say wellness, that's when it really kicked in that I started on that path. So all of that said, I ended up going to massage school, and then the journey really starts. But I would say massage school was my first exposure to the idea of wellness.
Yeah. I really like what you brought up about kind of finding purpose and passion through like looking through these themes of your life and then kind of aligning yourself.
And what I would say is, all of my entire life, and I would hope your listeners' life, if they genuinely reflect and look at that and get out of the idea that, it sucks, whatever, because every life, I mean, I can give you countless stories about how bad my life was. But it's how you choose to see that and how you choose to overcome it. And I would encourage people to identify those patterns and ask yourself, what is it that I'm learning? What are these patterns showing me? And if you're able to do that, it may not be easy, and you may be having a hard time doing that. But if you give yourself that space to do that and just see what bubbles up, you might be surprised. And it might lead you down a different path. But what I will say is that in all of my experiences, all of them were instrumental in helping me be who I am today. There's not one of them, good, bad, or ugly, that I could have experienced that hasn't helped me become who I am today.
The resilience really comes in to shape you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know we talked about it a little earlier, but as a massage therapist, what are some theories? What are things that you're normally working with that come into your practice?
Yeah. Wow. So I've been practicing massage and bodywork for 28 years, and it's a long time, particularly in this industry. It's pretty physically demanding, or it can be. And that's been certainly true. I think our lifespan for a massage therapist is, if I remember hearing right, 5 to 7 years. It's pretty demanding on the body. I've been very fortunate to be able to sustain myself in doing it this long. But I would say so over the years, let me kind of give it to you in a few segments. So I went to school for a sports massage because that sounded very manly. And in my career, I got to work, I know, right? I got to work with a lot of University of Utah athletes, semi-pro, and I worked on a couple of pro athletes as well. So I really got to work, get to explore that field. And that was a lot of like traditional sports massage, stretching, deep tissue, et cetera, or getting into that body, helping people that way. And then another part of my career has been spent working in workman's comp cases, working with injuries, working with doctors. So that was very helpful because I got to see how the power of massage and bodywork can really help people heal. And that started to help me understand too that there's this emotion side of ourselves, and even guys have it. I know we're going to say we don't, but we do. Every guy out there is going to know we got it, right? But being able to express that or hold those emotions can store in the body. And as a body worker, by helping get into that tissue and releasing the tissue and the tension of the body and the stress in the body, that energy that is bound up in emotion can be released as well. So over the years, I've really seen that kind of develop and become part of my practice. So when people are seeing me, I've got a couple I saw this weekend. There's psychologists as well, and she makes me laugh. We do like a half and half, like an intuitive reading and a body work. If I skip the body work, she gets mad at me. She says, no, we got to do the body work. And I said, why? Why is that so important to you? She says, you don't understand. When I'm on that table, I don't know what goes on, but I am totally relaxed. And I'm like in a different world. I don't know what happens, but so I say that not because I'm so great. Ha, ha, ha. But it's who I am and what I provide for clients is that space to be able to, what they need. And whether that be that space to really help release those emotions, or whether it be physical tension, either way, right? But whatever they need, that space is provided for them to have that happen.
Nice. I definitely think as somebody who works, across dimensions, because I think all these different areas of wellness are so interconnected, it completely makes sense that, right, you might start with something like the body, but really this is a mental shift for her, which is why she's coming in. And you have this spiritual side that you infuse into your work, which is
And that
amazing and
that
kind of
did
unheard
not
of.
come about very easily, by the way. I say this to my clients, I am probably the most stubborn, or I probably was the most stubborn soul on the planet with the universe. Like the universe was like, what are you doing? Why are you dragging your feet? I was that guy. So as I share these stories with you, they're not things, I mean, yes, I've done a lot of reading. I've done a lot of certainly inspired books that have moved me to read. I didn't read my first book until I was 27 years old.
Like regular book or?
Book cover to cover.
I hear that.
I'm sorry. Right?
No, you're fine.
But I never, like Cliff Notes when I was in high school.
Yeah. It's easy to cheat it,
never,
but then
never
you
read
realize.
a book. But the Neil Donald Walsh, Conversations with God, book 1, was my first book I read cover to cover. I read, it was like 375, 400 pages. I read that in a weekend.
So it sparked an interest in you.
Yeah. So I say that's for me, going back to why I brought all that up, was what I'm sharing with you is certainly from what I've learned and been inspired to learn, but everything I'm sharing with you is through my own experiences of my life and my own ups and downs and my own challenges and what had got me through them. And what I realize is all of the things that we call bad, or, my life sucks, this is bad, poor me, whatever, all those things that make us think that way, I have learned that they really are, they're our greatest teachers.
Oh, yeah.
And I say we learn the most when we're struggling. Well, what we call struggling. When things are great, that's the time to celebrate. That's the time to go, yeah, I made it through that, right? But if we can kind of rewire our brains a little bit, kind of go, when we hit those hard times, it's like, I made it to my doctorate school, great, I'm here, right? And we can look at it that way, it might be a little bit easier getting through those courses.
For sure. It brings to mind this saying of like growth is painful. Like it's not going to be comfortable because you're growing. Like even thinking about like children who grow, it's like, oh, my legs hurt and this hurts and that hurts. And it's like, well, you're a little child, but they're growing, so it hurts. Yeah. There's a lot of change happening there. Also touching on, right, you're multifaceted. There's these other areas. And you may have already answered this in the last question, but how did kind of like the mediumship and all of that begin? And how does it impact your work as a massage therapist?
Yeah, that's a great question too. I think, again, I drug my heels in the ground. I was resistant every step of the way. When I was in massage school, we were learning things about energy work, etc. I'd roll my eyeballs and go, what am I paying money for this crap for?
Is that typical in massage school that they'll teach you about energy work?
Well,
at the one
it
you
was
went
very
to?
new to me, but I've taught for 3 different schools, and the schools I've taught at have taken what I learned and really amplified it. So I would say yes. There are a lot of schools out there, depending on what you're going to school for. But a general, well-rounded school is going to expose you to a lot of what I would call the energetic field, the human energy side of things as well. They depend on the school, depending on how they gravitate toward what they're looking to do. They may not go into great depth, but a lot of the schools I taught at were very much emphasizing the wholeness aspect. And I say that because that was a concept I didn't quite understand. What does it mean to be whole?
Yeah.
Well, as I would define it in my own experience, is that wholeness means looking at not only our physical body, but also realizing that we are a soul. Now, I know that gets a little bit, people may not get on board with that 100%, but just hear me out. So if you approach like your body and you see it as a physical body, and we have science, we've got all the science to talk about the body, et cetera. We go into great depth, we can dissect the body, which part of my massage training did. Phenomenal training on the body. there aren't, even in our society now, there aren't a lot of courses that dive into the energetic part of ourselves. And what is that energetic part? Well, just the two pieces that I work with a lot are the human energy field, according to Barbara Brennan's work, also known as the aura field, and then the chakra system. So there's 7 major chakras. There are more, but the 7 major ones, those are very important energetic aspects of ourselves. So if we were to explore and learn more about that, you might be surprised at how that works. And that was my case, as I kind of explored. And what really pivoted me to this exploration was I got out of massage school. And again, when I was going through school, I was always like, not another energy class. In fact, I failed. I'm not going to admit this out loud, but I failed my cranial sacral class.
Uh-oh.
My teacher failed me. She says, okay, so first of all, let me just give you a backstory. So she was a great teacher, but she talked like this. And she was 7 feet tall and looked like the Wicked Witch of the West. So I had a nickname in my head for her. You can imagine, right? So kidding aside, but she had this very soft voice. And so she'd put me to sleep every time she talked. I'd go to sleep. So I'm doing a hold in class for our final, and she walks over and she says, "You fail." I failed the course. Had to repeat it. So I say that because that was me in energetic work. Like I had no inclination whatsoever.
Right. And now it's a huge part of what you do.
It's all of what I do. It's the majority of what I do. And so what happened is after massage school, 2 weeks so not 2 weeks, I'd say about my first year of practicing, I hit this point where I had a small practice in downtown Salt Lake City, Utah. And it was good. You know, it was a great practice. It was growing. Had clients that were coming back in and rebooking, and it was a lot of fun. I was having a good time with it. It wasn't as good as I wanted it to be, but it was going well. But one day, I walk in, or a few days, I walk in, and in a period of a short time, all of my clients canceled. And I'm freaking out. I'm like, how am I going to pay my bills? What am I going to do? Because I was my only provider, and I was, I got to pay rent and feed myself, right? We've all been there. I'm freaking out. So I call my friend, and I'm like, her name might be Kay. I said, Kay, I said, I'm scared. I have no idea what's going on. And she kind of smiles. And every time I reached out to Kay, anytime I ever needed to reach out to her, she was always available. And she seemed to always have an answer. It was weird. Again, the universal way of working is like, what? So Kay's like, what's going on? I says, all my clients canceled. I don't know what I did wrong. I think I stink or something. I mean, I don't know, but they all canceled. I could hear her smiling on the phone. And she says, well, I have a Healing Touch Level 1 class coming up this weekend. I could use an assistant. Would you like to be my assistant? I said, yeah, great. She says, be there with $100 on Friday. And I remind her, I'm a broke massage therapist. I got no money. And she laughed. She says, I don't care how you get the money, you be there. Okay. So now I'm saying this story because there's a reason, these things happen for a reason. And I'm just going about my bumbly day, kind of like, what am I going to do? I'm freaked out. I borrow money from my mom. I show up to class on Friday night. And I'm excited. It's kind of fun. It's kind of weird. I'm like, I was open to the idea. By midday Saturday, I made a connection. I couldn't explain it, but I made a connection. The techniques we were learning were hand placements. It's called a chakra connection and healing touch. I'm doing a healing touch chakra connection. And they're hold placements that I'm doing for that's learning it. And I realized in my massage practice for the last several months, I've been doing these holds.
Oh, nice.
I had no idea what they were. I just thought I was holding the body, right? But now I had a name to it. And now I had a reason for doing it. I'm like, oh, right? So that's where, we call it intuition. What do we want to call it, right? But when I'm in that, it's not only me, but when we're in that space of flow, when we're flowing with ourselves, things just happen seamlessly. They flow.
Yes.
It's very easy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we get in our own way, they get kind of rocky. And I was always in my way. So I finished up a Saturday of that class, and I was super duper excited. It went through Sunday, but by Saturday night, I was like, I cannot believe I hate energy work. What am I? This makes no sense. Like, I had to really do a lot of self-reflection. Monday morning, I get back in the office. I check my voicemail. Now, back in the day, we didn't have cell phones. We had these things called answer machines. You hit the record button and the play button, right? So I check my recorder. I hit play, and I have several voicemails. All of my clients called to reschedule. All of them.
Oh, wow.
I'm super duper excited. I'm thrilled. Like, I mean, I'm just like, what is this? Is crazy.
They all canceled, and then without any further notice, or they all rescheduled.
I thought I stunk. I thought something was wrong with me. I thought I sucked as a massage therapist. Yeah, it was bad, right? And they all called and rescheduled. Super excited. So I call Kay. I'm like, Kay, guess what? She says, your clients rebooked. How did you know that? She says, and to this day, I'm quoting her, but it sends chills in my body because it's a reminder that there's something to this idea of our soul, right? So what she said was, she says, Shane, sometimes the universe slows your world down to reshift or reposition you to what you need to learn. Oh.
Right.
And that was extremely pivotal because from that point on, I consider myself a very open-minded skeptic.
I like it.
Yeah. I'm open-minded. I'm willing to hear anything, but in my experience, I'll put it to the test.
Yeah.
I'll say, okay, universe, prove it. We have a weird conversation in the universe and I.
Well, it sounds like it's working out.
It really is. I laugh when I say it. They laugh at me all the time too. They laugh, by the way. Laughter. I think one of the things they share with me a lot with my clients is that we take this lifetime way too serious. And if you look at it, they're going on a little tangent here. If you look at it from a standpoint of our time in our life of existence, on the other side, it's literally like a blink of an eye. Yeah. That's how fast it is, right? So while we're here on this plane, we're not meant to suffer. We're really meant to enjoy. We're really meant to create and celebrate and bring our uniqueness to the world. And fun and creativity and excitement and laughter.
Yeah. Laughter.
They're always laughing.
Very healing.
So that was my shift when I started realizing that there was more to something. And then over the last 26, 27 years, it's been expanding. So you're kind of further your question. So what moved me more into working with the energies, et cetera, there's it's been over the last 26, 27 years, several books have come across, my classes, et cetera, and then my own bodywork experience working with the bodies. I began to become aware. For me, I had to laugh. For me, it's usually I have to learn it, or at least at the time, have to learn it, kind of get it in a written form for me to understand it. And then once I understood it, I could put a context to it of what I was experiencing.
Okay.
That was the way the universe worked with me.
Kind of like you're saying with Kate, like putting a theory
like
and
I had to go to
everything
massage school to get me to open up. Like I had to learn, that's the hard way of doing it, right? They put me in that position. And then even now, but now it's way different. Now I go internal and it's way different. I don't need the information. The information is helpful, but it's not important anymore. Now it's more about what I feel and what I see and what I sense. So what I started learning was about intuition, what it was, and there's something called the 4 clairs. So there's the clairvoyant. People hear that a lot. What is clairvoyant? That's the ability to see the unseen. Now, you're a mother, correct? I have 2 children, young ones. You have this sixth sense when something's wrong with them, right? They might be in a different room, but you know something's up.
Yeah.
Is that true?
I typically know what's going on with them.
So you ask yourself, well, where does that come from? Well, that's your clairvoyance or your claircognizance, right? You just kind of know. So your sixth eye, kind of that eye. My mom used to always say, she called me Shaner. What are you doing, Shaner? She would get all mad. I see you. I'm like, Mom, you're in the different room. How do you see me?
And she does.
And she does, right? I can see. What do you do? I'm like, how do you? Well, she was literally using her clairvoyance, her third eye, or sixth chakra, right? So we use these things all the time.
Yeah.
They're happening with us all the time. It's not this like undiscovered new weird thing. We do it all the time. We just don't realize it. So for me, it put me on a path of really kind of exploring what those are. So the 4 clairs, the clairvoyant, the ability to see the unseen, or when you see pictures, etc. That's what clairvoyance is. Claircognizant is what my wife, love her to death. My wife is very claircognizant. She knows things. I just know this. How do you? I know it. Math, she's great at. Like she knows how to solve problems with it. It's crazy. So claircognizance is just the ability to know. Clairaudient, the ability to hear, like when you hear voices, sounds, etc. That's your clairaudient ability. And then clairsentience is what I primarily started out with. Is one of my strongest suits. We all have a strength of one more toward the other, and that was my case. And that's what led me to massage school, because when I'm working on bodies now, I feel things. I feel them, and that's their clairsentience. So now when I'm working on someone, if I check in with them, I can feel it's going to sound crazy, but I feel their pain. I don't take their pain on, though.
Yeah.
I feel it.
Energetically.
Yeah. So I had a client the other day. She was on my massage table, and a new client. She comes in. I'm working with her, and and you have to discernment's kind of important, because I just don't want to be blabbering things to be blabbering them, right? But when people just don't find me, they find me when they're ready. And there's a universal agreement that I have with Source, the universe, to say, hey, if they show up and something comes through, it's meant to be shared. That's the agreement that I've got set up with Source. So this client comes in, and I'm feeling such heaviness in my chest. And I'm like, so I'm doing a massage, and I'm like, hey, check in with you on, how's your heart, how's your chest, like physically, how is that going? Oh, it's fine. I says, I just want you to know that I'm picking up on my chest is hurting. She says, yeah, I've been dealing with a lot of grief.
Okay.
Right? Okay. So I don't always know what it is. Like I don't always know exactly what it is, but my chest was hurting. So the chest, obviously we have our muscles in there, in our physical body. We have a heart, our physical heart.
Yeah.
We also have, it's that chest, the center of our chest is also the 4th chakra, which is the chakra that corresponds to unconditional love. And when you're grieving, your heart literally is shrinking or tightening up, right? Well, so is your heart chakra. And that's what I was picking up with her, was her heart chakra.
That's really interesting. I do want to kind of rewind us just a little bit, because you said, all of us have, one stronger than the other in the clear. You have better words for it than I do. But do you think everybody possesses one of these skills or channels?
100%.
Wow.
Yes. Now,
how can people tap into it or strengthen the sense?
Yeah. It starts out usually, like in my case, again, growing up in Casper, Wyoming, had no idea. But I remember, if I look back on my life, I always remember my stepfather was very much, he had an addictive personality. He was very emotionally abusive, not physically abusive, but emotionally abusive. And have you ever heard the statements, walking on eggshells? Right? Well, your intuition is always working. So that's giving you feedback. So in that case, with my stepfather, when I would walk into the room and I would feel like I'm walking on eggshells, I'd pick up on his mood right away, right?
Yeah.
Well, what's happening energetically, to give some explanation to that? So it's my sense, my clairsentience that's picking that up. But it's my energy field, my aura, if you will, is wrapping with his aura because we're exchanging information. And I'm picking up on his energy field and what he's putting out, right? And he's putting out some bad vibes. And I'm picking up on that, right?
Yeah.
And so that's making me feel like I'm walking on eggshells.
Yeah.
So I'm picking up on his mood.
That you have to be very careful.
Yeah. So you be very careful. Got to be careful what I say. Got to, really, as we've all been there. And that's a very easy way because we know that every one of us has walked down a dark alley or walked into a building where we're like, I feel uncomfortable, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you feel uncomfortable, what does that mean? That means your energy is picking up on what's in that space and it doesn't feel comfortable. So in that case, you're using your energy, you're using your abilities, right? You're using your intuition.
Yeah.
And for our conversation today, I'm kind of grouping intuition into a big category.
Okay.
But it's that ability to sense those things. And we do it all the time. Right? The opposite extreme, I do this with my clients quite a bit to help them connect. So if you think of, so you have 2 children, you don't have favorites, right? You love them both?
Oh, yeah.
Smart answer. I love them for our podcast. Yes, absolutely. But when you think of either of them, like so bring them to your mind right now, for example, if you do that, how do you feel?
I feel sweet.
Yeah,
like,
right? Yeah, you get a sense, right? I mean, it's not like, I'm glad you have that response. Now, I'd like you to think of someone or something that you don't like.
I could automatically kind of feel the change come over. It's hard to pinpoint someone or something I don't like.
Right, yeah. Or maybe
but
food you don't like or what. I mean, it can be something very simple, right?
Yeah.
But usually it's those things, we're all doing this all the time, right? Every day of our lives. When we're working with our colleagues in our work, like there's a woman in my space, in our space that we share. I cannot figure out why on life, to me, I'm a good-natured, loving soul. I love everybody. I love her. But for some reason, not so much.
Oh,
right?
well.
I've been sitting with myself. I'm like, what is the deal? I can't explain it. Yeah. So what I'm picking up on is I'm picking up on her energy, and there doesn't have to be a reason. It's just it's an awareness. Okay, we're just not compatible. Great.
Yeah. Two different energies.
2 different energies.
I feel like, kind of to your point, you're giving me words to. I think typically when I'm working with clients, I'm talking about how much information is coming in subconsciously that, that's why certain things are happening certain ways and trying to make them more aware of those things. So to get more language around like the energy field of it, which I mean doesn't appeal to all of my clients, but to get more language around like, hey, your energy field is actually sucking in information from your environment. Yep. And that's why you're choosing the people you choose, or you end up in places that, you're ending up. And so that's really cool.
Yeah, and have you ever heard the word empath? Right? So that's kind of a clairsentient expression, like if you're an empath, what that means is you pick up on energy really easy and you're sensitive. We're all empaths to a certain degree, but some of us are more sensitive and some of us are acutely sensitive. Like we're so sensitive we can't function in the world. So there's an imbalance there, right? So how do we work with that? But not to go into that great detail, but the idea of an empath. So as healers, as people in our nurses, doctors in our professions that we're working in, one of the things that I find very near and dear to my heart is to really help people understand that this idea about give and receive, it should be balanced. There should be a balance there. And so to give of your energy to the point where you're depleted does not serve you and does not serve anybody else, right? So who came up with the idea that we should give ourselves first? So I don't know if there was a famous psychologist that said that. I'm wondering why. I'd like to know.
Well,
Because I'm a
I
little
don't
confused.
preach that one, so I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm very much so put your mask on before the other.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but I come across that a lot because people pleasers, I want to make sure they're happy with me. So there's many ways to have that express themselves, but I look at it like you're picking up on energy and you're taking it on versus allowing it to move through your system and clearing it.
I think I have an answer to the question. I don't know if there was somebody famous who said it, but when what you're kind of describing shows up, children are very vulnerable. And so we grow up and we learn all these things to stay alive, to please the parent that has the bad vibe. And it doesn't translate so well into adulthood. So then, you're people pleasing when it's just a learned skill of like, hey, this is how I survive. If somebody's feeling down, I cheer them up or I give them what they want.
And that's a great segue. I mean, there's certainly the empath, and there's a great book that Dr. Faith, I can't think of his last name off the top of my head, but he wrote a book, and in that book, there's a test you can take to see how sensitive you are. And it's just nice to know, just kind of get an idea of how
this is a good book.
So it's very helpful. Again, see, these things are helpful to me because I get a context of what I'm thinking. But I am an empath, and I've learned that I'm quite sensitive. My wife, on the other hand, is more sensitive than I am, which is not surprising, but surprising. I mean, I thought I was more sensitive. No, she is. But we also
a lot more feminine energy to.
But we can take that all that in kind of different contexts in different ways. But you kind of led into a great segment, a leadway into this idea of another part of help people understand about their power, and that's learning about your energy system, learning about your chakras. Like that's really important, just to get a context of what that is. Now, if you do yoga, there's many ways to talk about chakras, et cetera, which are great. But I would encourage the average listener to, kind of explore and look at what is a chakra? Like what are they? And they certainly fit in that metaphysical world. But in my opinion, they should be put in everyday medical anatomy. They should be part of the core curriculum because that's that energy system is just as important as your physical body. I'd almost say it's more important. Don't get me in trouble.
Well, it's taking in so much more information and can probably guide you more easily than us always getting stuck in this brain.
So you were talking about like learned behavior from my parents. So if I'm being careful of what to say around my dad, I'm not going to say that because I'm going to walk on eggshells, etc. So I learned that's not appropriate to say. Well, that learned behavior, where is that stored energetically? That's stored in your second layer of your energy field. So you've learned through a learned behavior, whether it be conscious or unconscious, you learned, and now you've stored it in your system. That's your choice, right? So that choice now is
conscious or subconscious.
Yeah, conscious, either way, right? It's conscious, subconscious, but it's a choice you made. Now that choice, say 20 years from now, you're in a relationship and you seem to be attracting a spouse or someone else that you walk into the room and you're always on eggshells. It's a learned behavior, but can you see that as an opportunity to learn?
Well, I think that's where the awareness comes in, is like, hey, this is a pattern that you're comfortable with, that you're familiar with. That's why it doesn't bother you that you're walking on eggshells with this person and you're tolerating whatever you're putting up with.
Here's what's so powerful about what I witnessed when we're working in this capacity with people. When they shift that, when they become aware of that,
of that
choice, when they're aware of that choice, they have a choice, and they can choose something different, right? It's no longer subconscious, if you will. It's no longer the record player behind the scenes that's playing. It's now in the forefront. I'm like, ooh, I see it now. I recognize that pattern. And what that does, in my understanding, and you probably have more insight than I do on this, but when you're aware of that, you have an option to make a different choice. And I say an option because you don't have to. You can make the same choice, right? But you have an option. So that in itself neurologically creates different neural pathways in the brain. Energetically, that frees up that learned behavior or that behavior that's no longer serving you in the way you had hoped it would. It frees that up and allows you now for a belief or something that comes in that's more serving. And the beautiful part about that is where the healing comes into play is that now you no longer have to walk on eggshells because you learned that lesson.
Yeah. The lesson repeats until you learn it.
Or, as you said, the lesson can repeat itself. Right? And when you approach it that way, and so I'll give you an example. So I have a success story with a client who had seen me. This is back before COVID. I started seeing her. And she came in for some more medical intuitive work, et cetera. And she's in her mid-30s when I met her. And she was always had narcolepsy. And narcolepsy is a condition where you just fall asleep. Like you just fall asleep. No matter where you are, you just fall asleep. It's unfortunate, but that's what the condition is. And she's had it all of her life she can remember. So she sees me and, we're having a brief conversation about it. And I said, well, let's take a look, and I pulled out, so I was referred to Louise Hay's, The Body Can Heal Itself. I looked at that book to give me a starting point. And I said, well, and I was thinking, because sometimes things aren't in the book, so I don't know, but narcolepsy was. I'm like, this is kind of cool. So I read it to her. I said, this is what narcolepsy means energetically. And I forget off my head what it means. But she says, my whole life I've been struggling with that. This is exactly, okay, great. So part of that session over the next couple of sessions was to clear that energetically out of her second layer of field. To this day, we're now, 7 years since I've been seeing her, 6, 7 years since I haven't seen her in a while, but 6 or 7 years later, about shortly after that last session I saw her, she calls me and she says, Shane, you're not going to believe this. I have not fallen asleep. I don't have narcolepsy. You cured me.
Wow.
Now, I love it when clients tell me that. I think it's great. My ego gets big. My head gets big. I feel very proud. I'm like, yeah, I did my job, right? But it wasn't me, right? It wasn't me at all. It was her.
It was the explanation, and then she was able to work through it.
It was her. She was ready to let it go. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So my job, in this case, I share that with you because that belief, whatever, and I forget what the belief was to narcolepsy, but the belief we worked with her on, we cleared it and provided a more serving belief that was more aligned with who she is, her soul is. And in doing that, she no longer needed to experience narcolepsy.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So, and those are rare, by the way. Those don't happen all the time, but they do happen. And we may have, your listeners may have heard like, well, how do miracles happen? I've heard these stories. Well, how does that happen? And my experience is that miracles are pretty rare. They don't happen all the time, but they happen because that soul no longer needs that condition or no longer needs, they've healed. And I am just a facilitator. I am just, I just move the energy is what I do. I'm the messenger.
Yeah.
Right?
I feel like the things you're saying bring so many questions to mind. I guess I'll start with 2.
Lots of questions.
One, you're talking about like the layers of energy. How many of those do you have? How do you know which layer things are stored on?
Now, to be honest with you, I don't get caught up on all the details of all the layers, but there are like, 12 layers. So if you, that I know of, and there may be more, I know Carolyn Mace talks about more. Okay. And each layer vibrates at a high frequency and a higher frequency and a higher frequency. So the naked eye is not going to pick it up. Like,
do the layers move like closer to outer or outer to closer?
That's a great question. Okay. For us to learn, it's when we draw it, it looks like it's more two-dimensional.
Mm-hmm.
But in the reality, they are always, it's like a three-dimensional.
Oh, okay.
Like, it's moving. There are some layers to the field that are more core to who we are and will always remain that way. And as we get outer fields, depending on what we're thinking, like when I'm teaching, for example, my fields are very yellow.
Okay.
My outer fields are yellow, and yellow is representation of teaching. When I was at a metaphysical fair, I did an aura photography, and it was fun, just to kind of, they're great. If you get beers together and then you have aura photography and you have great conversations, it makes for a great conversation. Ha, ha, ha. But it's good because it gives you a picture of that there's more to you than what you think. So it's called aura photography. And at the last metaphysical fair I was doing, there was a gal that did it, and she took my picture and kind of explained it to me, and she was kind of taken back. And last time I had it done, I had a lot of purple or a lot of greens, which is heart energy. This one, however, had a lot of white. I had a lot of white around it, and then above my field there was also more white spots. And she was interpreting that as, well, that's your crown chakra, but then these are also other guides you're working with that are helping you with the fair, or they're coming in that you're bringing in to help. And see how this purple is? Like that's and so the different colors were different during that time. And so there are ways to kind of give some credibility, if you will, right? That again, I needed, not that I need it now, but I needed when I was going through and learning, because again, I was very stubborn. I'm not going to lie. I used to tell the universe, if I don't see it and I don't believe it, if I don't see it, touch it, it isn't real. And that was just not serving me very well.
Yeah. And then the second question is, right, as you work on the body, are there particular, right, we kind of touched on chakras, and it probably elaborates off of that, but do you see certain like anxiety and depression showing up in particular places? Or
it's interesting how you phrase that question. Okay, so what I've learned and how I practice is that when someone walks in my door, I will always scan them, right? So I'll do a quick scan. When I'm doing body work, it takes a different set of my skills. So I'm not quite tuned in, unless it's really obvious and they want me to know. I'm not quite tuned in the way that you're describing. I wish it were different for me, but it's not.
No, it's fine.
However, what I will say, though, is when I'm working with the body, as I'm coming across and I'm like working on a shoulder and it's tight and it's not loosening up, I'll kind of get a nudge. I'll get a little hit that says, something else is going on here. So that's when the intuitive kicks into play and starts going, well, ask her this question, right? So the cliche about shoulders is, why are you carrying the weight of the world, right? So in one case, I might say, the shoulders are not letting up. Well, what are you holding on to? And so I might just come out in a weird way like that, right? Or in some cases, some of my clients, I'll look at the book and I'll get some more in depth there. But majority of the time, it's more like, this is really not moving. Something else is going on here. Let's explore this.
Okay.
Right? And then that shifts me back into that intuitive side. Now, again, with that said, I want to make sure, unless it's obvious, like unless they really need to work through something. And so that's when the mediumship sometimes comes into play. Like I'll have someone will just show up and they'll start. Like I think of one of my clients several months ago. She's retired. Great. Nothing was wrong. She's having a great, her retirement's wonderful, great life. And I'm working with her. I've been working with her for 20 years. And I'm working with her, and all of a sudden I get this face that shows up, and I'm like, oh my God. And it just shows up in my mind. And she has this fluffy hair, and it looks like it's blonde, and I see her face very clear. Nothing else but her face. So I share with my client. I'm like, I don't know what's going on, but this is coming through, and it's very strong. And I says, this is what I'm seeing. I says, I don't know, does it mean anything to you? And she starts to kind of chuckle and then starts to cry. She says, she passed away several years ago. Her birthday is tomorrow. I'm on the board and we're doing a party for her this weekend. So the rest of the session, that face was given information and kind of talking. It wasn't, sometimes I'll come through to help and heal, but this was just a case to let her know that, hey, I'm still around, right? And that happens often as well.
That's really cool. How, right, I'm thinking if there is a listener out there who may feel strongly connected, how can they hone this skill? Hone their...
Yeah, I would say the first thing is to realize that you're not going crazy. Right?
Okay.
That you're not making, no, seriously, right? I have a very good client, a student of mine who's a therapist, and he specifically focuses on people will not see these kind of patients, but he will and he tells me, he says, they're not crazy, Shane. They're just very much aware. So for those folks, I'm speaking to you clearly that you're not crazy, right? You're not losing your mind. But sometimes, these things can be very taboo. So finding your circles, it can be very helpful, right? Or just reaching out and exploring that. And the other thing I would say about that is that fear is very, if you're afraid of it, it can be very daunting in exploring this. I would remind you that there's nothing to fear. It's part of who you are. It's your makeup. It's part of your package for living here on the planet. You came here with it.
I kind of like that imagery that it brought to mind of it was in your toolkit.
Yeah,
You're not using all the tools you have to navigate.
You give me a chainsaw and we're dead, Louis. It's not going to work good. That tool does not work well for me, right? But there are people that cut down trees all the time. So yeah, I like that. So your tool in your toolkit.
Yeah.
So those are two things I would say.
Nice. How hard or easy do you find it to tap into this intuitive?
I always, when I'm teaching my classes, I help people, it's fun because I get to see them have fun and explore, right? I like you to, so I tell my students, I'm like, don't look at it like it's something you have to learn. You already know it. Remember it. So, and when how's that look? So I always encourage being childlike, being curious, being creative. Okay, so I heard this podcast with this dude on there talks about chakras. What are chakras? I've never heard of that before. I'm curious. Right?
Curious.
So that curious mind, not that fearful mind, but that curious mind. What is a chakra? Let me find out what about this is. What does it do? Right? And that'll lead you down that path. And there are several books I would certainly recommend. There are many out there, but the ones that were very formidable for me, Anatomy of the Spirit by Carolyn Mace was pretty profound. She goes into great detail about each of the chakras and how they correspond physically as well as energetically.
Yeah.
So it's very helpful. I mean, there's information out there, but that's where I would certainly start, right? And Barbara Brennan, she's written several books, but the two that come to mind, I consider them very much like the energetic anatomy, if you will, of the Bible, kind of like they're very, very good, very, very dense and very good. But Hands of Light and Light Emerging are two that she's written, and they're very much like textbooks.
Okay. Hands of Light and Light Emerging. Okay. Yeah. I'm curious. I'll have to check them out.
So there are ways. And then, of course, finding people in your communities. I teach classes. I help people. I find it funny because people, they find me when they're ready. And more times than not, someone that's curious and, sometimes what they report back to me is that they don't have anybody in their family they can talk to about this. Like they already may be feeling it, but they don't have anybody they can trust or feel confident opening up to. So I see people come in quite a bit. They're on my massage table and they start asking me questions like, what is intuition? And I laugh. I'm like, oh, right. So we'll have a great conversation while we're doing a massage and help. So the space that they find that it's safe and that they're able to communicate and it's not threatening, it's not fearful, right? And they can explore it and not be criticized for it.
Okay. So to speak, this tool is really just looking to be understood, like looking for someone who can use it properly.
Well, not even properly. I would just see probably is a funny word. You're using it all the time.
Yeah.
Like every one of us using it all the time, good, bad, or ugly. We're using it all the time. So it's a matter of, think of it like a muscle, like a skill. It's like, and the more you consciously devote to learning about it, the bigger that skill grows, right? Okay. But every one of us on the planet, every soul on the planet today, everyone has the ability to explore this, right? I'm always curious of we have it's a choice. Like you can choose this or not. It's going to work there anyway, but I find when you make the choice to step into your power or to explore these options, you really understand more of who you are and you understand your purpose and you understand there's a greater reason that you're living, that you consciously chose this time. And so for me, it just made a lot more sense.
I do want you to talk more about like what the medical intuition is. I know we're saying it and maybe people don't know. And I thought it was so interesting when I seen that you're doing this and asked you about it. So please.
Great. So medical intuition really is a way of, so I'm going to say it in this context. So as a medical intuitive, my role is the observer. So I go into your system, or as a medical intuitive, I go into your system and source, universe, God, whatever you want to describe it, works with me to help get to the root cause of the pathology, of what's going on in the body, right? Now, I laugh because a medical intuitive, it scares people. They're like, I don't want to know if I'm going to die of cancer. I don't know. And I laugh. Oh my gosh, do I laugh, right? That's a part of it, but that's no. So medical intuitive very much is complementary to Western medicine in the sense that a doctor is going to look at your physical body and they have the tests, the resources. So if you were coming in for a session and you have seen a doctor, I would look at what the doctor's telling you and I would say, okay, great, let's look at it. What are they saying? With that information, I go in and I ask Source, Universe, et cetera, to show me what it looks like. So I'll see it physically sometimes, but more times than not, I'll see it energetically. And I'll look at what's going on behind that. And what's the root cause? So what's the root cause of narcolepsy? In that client's case, that belief was what the root cause was, right? Yeah. So sometimes as a medical intuitive, as I go in and observe, they're working to heal those areas. And so a lot of it uses, so I become the observer, I watch it healed to completion. Now you might be thinking, well, what do you mean healed to completion? So when I go into someone's system and usually it shows up for me like in shadows or grays or dark colors, that doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that's how they're showing it to me. That's part of what I would say, not to be afraid of, if you want to learn it, that's not to be afraid of, because I'm not going to tell you anything you don't want to already know because you're not going to let me. You're showing up because you're in control of the session 100%.
You say like shadows or grays or dark. Yep. Is it like a, I don't know what I'm trying to describe. Yeah. Is it like a shape? Does it
Yep.
seem to be alive?
Yeah.
What is?
Well, sometimes it varies. So like usually it'll show up initially, like, the client that had the chest that was very grief oriented. I could feel it, but then when I looked at it, it showed up as gray. I saw a lot of gray around her chest, right? Doesn't mean there's a problem. That's just, that's just Source's way of how it works with me. That's how I know. Okay, cool, right? So for you, if you learned it, it might be something different. You might get all kinds of colors,
Rainbows.
You might get rainbow. Who knows? But you're the way that they work with you is designed specifically for you and your own intuition, and that's the beautiful part about it. So, but as a medical intuitive, why? So the question too is why would I want to see a medical intuitive?
Yeah.
Right? Why?
What's the benefits?
Yeah. Well, we certainly are in a really kind of crazy paradigm when it comes to medical worlds today, our healthcare system. And I'm going to be the first to tell you, I will never bash the system, the Western medicine system. I am all for it. It's all been created by God, right? So it serves a purpose. So I'm very much aligned with what they're doing. Now, the system has limitations. This is very limited in what it can do, and it's very expansive, but it's also very limiting. They look for the worst case scenario, right? So if you go in and something happens and you go in and see the doctor, they're going to rule out the worst.
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yeah.
Right. And I'm
they
sure
always start with, oh, it's not cancer.
Yeah, it's
and
not
it's
cancer.
Well, that
it's not the big stuff, right? But in case it was, we caught it. Now, energetically, if I look for the big stuff first, what am I going to find more times than not? The big stuff.
Yeah.
Right? So it's the system and how it operates, and why you'd want to see a medical intuitive is because it's complementary to what you're receiving. So now you have that data. Now you see a medical intuitive. So I give you different perspectives. I'm going to say the root cause of what I'm picking up on, right? But here's the funny part. You may not connect to that at all. You may even be aware that was even an issue.
Yeah.
Or even, you might not even been aware of it, but now that it's been pointed out to you, you're like, oh. My experience as a medical intuitive is everything shows up energetically first. Everything. Every pathology in your body showed up energetically first. And as a medical intuitive, it's kind of being a little bit ahead of the curve. You're catching it before it manifests itself further.
Right.
Or in some cases, if it's already infused, you're able to go in and heal it if you're ready and willing to, right? But you as the client or you as the person, you are 100% responsible.
For the healing.
For the healing. You're doing it. I'm there to assist you in what you need.
So you bring the awareness. What might be a prompt to work through?
Ooh, can you rephrase that question? What do you mean?
Yeah, so you bring them the awareness of, this grief is manifesting.
Yeah. Yep.
As, something going on with your heart chakra. Then how would you help them resolve it?
Right. So I love that question because what they're telling me, Source is telling me now, is this is the beautiful part, right? So I have a scope of practice. I have a limitation to what I can do. If it moves into the area where, for example, if it's grief and they're not moving on from it and my work is not necessarily helping, I am going to refer them to someone like you or someone that can help move through that grief. I am very confident that I am not always the solution, right?
Yeah.
I can be a peg.
That's a good way to be.
I can be a cog in the wheel, right? I can, my part, cool, right? Sometimes my part is to be that person, but sometimes I'm just a cog in the wheel. So as you're asking that question, I'm hearing them say, it's kind of funny because this is where a lot of my clients are seeing psychologists or seeing therapists, traditional therapists, and there's a blending. It's so funny. I laugh. I'm like, you're working on that too with your therapist? That's amazing, right? But the perspective they get from my perspective and how I'm phrasing it, or how source is phrasing it, and how it's coming about from this perspective, it matches with your perspective or a traditional therapist perspective. And it's really the bottom line is what is going to help that client heal.
Yes.
And I'm working on the soul. I'm working on the whole system when I'm working with them.
I appreciate that answer. I find that to be true, like you're saying in my work too. It's like, well, yeah, and here's your medical doctor, and here's your
and just this has been beaten into me as a massage therapist. I am not a doctor. I'm not an MD. I'm not a PhD. I don't have that name title behind me, right? So I do not diagnose. I do not prescribe. I do not, that's not my and I am more than willing to refer people out, right? That's, so part of my purpose and when I'm helping people step into their power within this realm is to help the client empower themselves, to help them realize they're the center, they're the healer. And who are you choosing to surround yourself to help you heal?
To walk down the
Is it a
journey
traditional
with
therapist? Is it your MD doctor? Is it a medical intuitive, a massage therapist, a chiropractor, an herbologist? Well, we have so many ways out there to help people heal.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it's you.
Yeah.
It's you. You're making a decision and a choice, and you have that power.
It brings like beautiful imagery. Like as therapists, we talk about like walking alongside people.
Yeah.
And the imagery that came to mind was like kind of like a group of people like walking next to this person who's like kind of carving the path of like, oh, we're just here to support you. We're just along for the ride.
I know it's a little different, weird way of working, right? But really, that's my whole, like my mission in life is to be of service to others. And this is how I can do it.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your work and, kind of the pronoia, the serendipitousness of the universe. I thought it was funny because I was talking to you in your office and I don't know why I didn't know it before. I wasn't supposed to. But you had brought up that you were a vet, a Navy vet. And I was like, oh, my dad was too. So maybe that's why I'm in here just like, oh, hi. Like,
yeah. Well, and that's funny. I mean, I forget that part of myself, but military veteran, right?
Yeah. I mean, you're always very calm in your office. So when I like walk in, you're like, oh, there's somebody here. I'm like, yeah.
Hi. Yep.
So really cool. Anything you want to share about teaching, about the courses?
Sure. So I've taught as a massage therapist in my career. I taught at 3 different massage schools for extensive times in all 3 spots. So my wife's a teacher. So I love teaching. I love helping people, what I say now, step into their power because it really invigorates me to see them light up and to see their life become better. And for me, that's very helpful. We should really be supportive of one another and support each other in wherever they are in life. So part of my purpose as a teacher is I've developed some intuitive classes, some medical intuitive classes, and I've had a person in Canada who has helped me develop them to be online now. So I teach medical intuition online, which I was skeptical at first, but oh my goodness, it is crazy how it works. It's amazing. So I've got a medical intuition class coming up on March 18th. It's set up for a 2-day course. Day 1 is 8 hours. Day 2 is 4 hours, 3-4 hours. And it's purposely set up that way because the integration between day 1 and day 2 is where you really learn. So in that period of time, when we come back to day 2, we get to explore how'd your homework go, how'd things, how'd you grow, it's purposely designed that way. It can be a little bit overwhelming, but it goes by so fast, let me tell you. And the feedback I've gotten from people and how they've grown and what they were aware of, it's really amazing. It's pretty cool. So I want to kind of let people know that if you're curious or if you have questions and you want to know more about that, That class is on March 18th. It's a Saturday, goes from like 9 to 4. And then April 19th, I believe, is the second day. It goes from like 9 to 1.
Really cool.
Yep.
It brought to mind the question of like, you're teaching it virtually. Could somebody do this virtually? Like, could they sense?
Oh yeah, that's what's so weird, right? So one of my major obstacles was, so if you believe it can't work long distance, what's going to be your experience?
Well, it doesn't work. Belief is very strong.
Yeah, right. It really is. So my teachers told me, they said, Shane, in my Healing Touch classes, nothing stops energy. Nothing. No walls, nothing. So when you start looking at the idea of, well, the military back in the World War I and World War II days, they have people called, what's the word? It just slipped my mind. They go out of their body and they visit locations and they report back to the command. If there's a technique for that. They call it. Yes, but there's even something more, but that's it, yeah. So astral projection, when you're able to do that, but they go on to sites and they can report what's going on and give feedback to the military, and they use that. The military resource uses that for people. So that is an example of how nothing stops energy. And so my teacher pointed out, she says, nothing stops energy. She also pointed out that she says, have you ever heard of people being in different places at one time? And if I'm not mistaken, there is research data stating that Buddha was spotted in several places at one time.
Oh, wow.
Right? So that's possible because
energy.
Yeah.
I think there's like a part of physics, and I'm not a physicist. I know nothing about physics, but I think it's part of string theory or something
quantum physics.
that talks about how two particles can kind of just transverse places instantly and be in two places at once in that way.
Yeah. And so me, like, again, being in the military, being in corporate America, et cetera, I like that knowledge to be able to kind of have something to grab onto. So I love I'm not a quantum physics expert by any way, shape, or form. And there's so much out there. But there's science, right? I even told my wife, I laugh, I'm like, honey, quantum physics, this is science. And she looks at me like her eyeballs get all back in her head. She supports me 100%, loves me to death, but she doesn't quite get what I do. I don't blame her.
They're starting to prove some of these ancient practices now.
Yep, they really are. And that's through quantum physics. That's through some of the research that's coming up now. So it's really exciting that we're seeing us evolve there. But ultimately, I would say it's really about, if I were to leave one thing to your readers or to your listeners, is that the statement is, you're not afraid to fail. You're afraid to succeed because you know failure. You don't know success.
That's true. Well, I appreciate everything you gave here tonight. Plenty to think on, plenty to be curious about. So I'm like, I got
on a lot of subjects.
Yeah, but I mean, it always takes us where we need to go. The people who listen are going to hear what they need to hear, so that's what's important.
Yeah, and I'll also share with your listeners, I mean, if they're curious and they want to just have some questions, I mean, you're always welcome. I mean, if you haven't had bodywork and you're local and you want to come in for a session, you can do that, and we can certainly explore. My sessions aren't, they're set up, obviously, for services. You can choose a service, but when you show up, it's really what you need at that time. So if you're curious, you just want to book a session and maybe have some massage and kind of converse where you're at and what's going on, be more than happy to have that conversation.
Yeah. And you can find Shane at innerlightshines.com and at the office on 1711 South Pearl Street.
Yes.
Denver, Colorado.
Yeah, not Boulder, Denver.
Yep. Wonderful. I appreciate you so much for coming and being willing to do this and imparting your wisdom on us.
Thank you. And you're part of that tribe too. And thank you for doing what you're doing.